Hey there guys, it's Victor with VictorVectorJKU. Back in the garage, and today we're going to be installing the replacement track bar that Core 4x4 sent me. That's going to correct my issue with the interference that I ran into when I first installed the kit. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so this is the second video that I'm going to be covering installing the track bar and the issues that I ran into when I first installed the 8-piece control arm kit along with the front and rear track bars. I was able to install everything but the front track bar because of an interference that I ran into based on the setup that I'm running on my Jeep. So we're going to go ahead and cover that a little bit and talk about what happened with working with Core 4x4 to get a new one and what we did to correct the issues. And then we'll show it to you when we get it on the Jeep. So if you guys remember in my previous video, which I'll go ahead and put a link up in the top of the screen for you, I ran into an interference when cycling my suspension with the new track bar in the front. Reason for this is that on my passenger side of the vehicle, I'm running a Synergy track bar relocation bracket on the Dynatrack front axle that I have, and I'm running it at the highest mounting location. So this track bar is actually built to kind of go to the factory mounted location. Now, because I'm running a drag link flip kit with a high steer, then I need to actually raise this end up, otherwise I won't have the same angle between my track bar and my drag link. With that, you can result in bump steer or other steering problems and potentially even get into death wobbling. And obviously it's not something I wanted to do, so I want to keep my geometry consistent. So what I did was I reinstalled my JKS Track Bar and was able to wheel with that. When I got back from Moab, I wanted to go ahead and move into getting the corrected track bar and everything figured out. So I reached out to Core 4x4 and I told them what was going on. So basically what happens is, because I'm running the Synergy Track Bar reinforcement bracket along with the sector shaft brace, the nut for the sector shaft was coming into interference with the track bar. And that's what this blemish is on the track bar here. So essentially, based on the geometry that they had set up so that you would have this upper portion of the track bar would be coming across parallel, mine actually came up and was at a little bit of an angle. And that's where my issue came into, is because it took away some of that height that I should have had, being that I'm running the higher mount on the axle side. So what I did was I reached out to Core 4x4, and what they did was ask for a couple of pictures showing basically the interference that I'm running into and how much height there is between the two, so that they could figure out what they needed to do to create a different bend for the track bar for me. So I'm going to see if I can hold these guys up. Both quite heavy, but you can see how much different the angle of the bend is there. And if I can, right behind. So basically, the first part's the same, second part's the same, and they put in less of a bend here. So what this means is, before, if I had the lobe position, you would notice that this is pretty much kind of pointing up. But when we raise it up, this will be more level. So this should create the amount of clearance that I need, so that when I cycle my passenger side up, or I'm articulating on the right front tire, that I will not run into that same interference issue with the sector shaft brace nut interfering on the track bar. So it was really easy working with Core 4x4. They were able to help me out. They sent me out the new track bar pretty quick, and then what they did was they just asked for me to return this in the same box. They provided me with a return shipment label. So once I get this in, confirm everything's good, I'll go ahead and send the old one back and we'll be good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and jump on the Jeep, get this guy bolted in, and we'll go ahead and show you what the JKS track bar looks like, and then I will show you what the corrected track bar looks like. Let's get on the Jeep. Alrighty guys, so we're just kind of looking at it right now. You're not going to be able to see it very well because my drag link's mostly in the way, but what we're looking at is at the JKS track bar that's mounted behind it. I have it mounted on the Synergy track bar mount on the axle here, and it is mounted in its highest bolt location. And then you can see where my interference is with the other track bar is here where the sector shaft brace and the sector shaft brace nut are. The way that the JKS track bar comes is it comes level, and then it sort of bows away from the differential, and then it comes down at the angle. So where the original Core 4x4 track bar came in, it was coming straight across, but then it was meant to come down and angle to one of the lower holes. But of course that wouldn't keep my geometry in the same angle for the drag link to track bar ratio. And so that's the reason why I couldn't change that mounting location, which led to the interference, because it would raise the angle and it would come up and interfere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and pop this guy out. We'll then final install the new Core 4x4 track bar, and we'll show you the clearance and how that works out. So right now, we're looking at about 2 fingers width of space between the track bar and the nut. I know that's sufficient. I don't have any scoring or marks on the track bar existing today on the JKS track bar. So as long as the new Core 4x4 track bar comes in at a similar angle where it's more or less parallel, we should be good. Alrighty guys, so I have the new track bar installed. There's a couple things that I had to do to make it work though. So I did a quick check and it looks like I don't have any interferences. However, I was not able to put my passenger side to full bump inside the garage, so I'll have to look into that later. But when I first put it up, the length of the track bar was too long, even with the rod end completely threaded into the track bar itself. So basically what that led me to is that my axle was being pushed too far to the passenger and it wasn't aligned properly. So wasn't going to be able to work with that. So what I ended up coming up with is I pulled the Johnny joint, the rod end, out. And I looked at how much thread there is on the Johnny joint and also how much thread there is on the inside of the track bar. I was able to identify that there was at least 1 inch that I could cut off the end of the track bar to make it work. So that's what I did, was I took just a little bit less than 1 inch off. So I did that with my bandsaw, and then what I did after that was I came back and I chamfered the outside edge, or what is now the new outside edge of the track bar, put a little chamfer there, and I ran a deburring tool around to make sure that there was at least a little bit of a chamfer for the idea of the thread so that the rod end threads in very smoothly. Got that done, checked my length, reset it to what my other track bar was, put it in, and then did an alignment, made sure that everything was squared up, tightened everything in, torqued my 2 mounting bolts for the frame side as well as the axle side to 125 foot-pounds, and we are good to go. So I'm excited, finally getting away from the factory style rubber bushings, and now I'm running Johnny joints for all of my links in the front suspension except for the axle front upper mounts. So those guys, I still have the Johnny joints to be placed in there. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. So I'll be following up with another video to capture the process, install, and also the modification that I had to do to make it so that I can make these Johnny joints work with this axle. Alrighty guys, so that's going to wrap up today's video. Got to say that I'm pretty excited to finally have the adjusted Core 4x4 front track bar installed on the Jeep on Project Vector. And just in time, I'm heading down to Tillamook, Oregon in 2 days. Going to go do some off-roading down there with a big group of friends from the Pac Northwest up here. So we're going to be heading down there, and this is going to be a good test to see how the suspension cycles and how it performs now that I have basically all the joints replaced with Johnny joints minus the 2 upper bushings on the axle housing. So I should see really good flex and very smooth travel of the suspension, which I already noticed when I was down in Moab that this suspension performed way better than what the factory bushing styles I had on my previous suspension system. Now granted, do keep in mind I did buy that one with the thought in mind that I wanted to maintain good on-road habits, but what I've noticed is the 1,000-mile drive down to Moab, 1,000-mile drive back, along with several miles of off-road travel that I did and all the number of trails that I hit while down in Moab, this suspension has been proven to be very good, quite comfortable. I haven't really noticed a whole lot in the way of new noises or anything. I have been very satisfied with the performance of the Johnny joints in these new links that I have installed, as well as the front and rear track bars. So definitely excited to test it out this weekend. So guys, hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the thumbs up button, give this video a like for me. Drop any questions or comments in the video description down below. If you're a returning subscriber, really appreciate you guys. And if you haven't subscribed yet, really hope you consider subscribing to my channel if you're finding value in the content that I'm uploading. With that guys, we are VictorVectorJKU. We are taking on this build and the trails of both direction and magnitude. Alrighty, have a good one. We'll catch you next time.